The Trump administration just suffered one of the most embarrassing prosecutorial failures in modern history. A grand jury refused to indict a man for throwing a Subway sandwich at a federal agent, exposing how Attorney General Pam Bondi's DOJ is wasting taxpayer money on ridiculous cases while real crimes go unpunished. This isn't just about a sandwich, it's about a Justice Department so desperate to appear tough that they're criminalizing everyday confrontations with federal overreach. When citizens can't even express frustration without facing felony charges, we've crossed a dangerous line. Here's the stunning footage that started this prosecutorial disaster.
It was funny. Well, he doesn't think it's funny today because we charged him with a felony, assault on a police officer, and we're going to back the police to the hilt. So there, stick your Subway sandwich somewhere else.
I do want to get you to a developing story that we have been following, as a Justice Department employee has been fired and charged with a felony after investigators say they identified him as the man seen in this video throwing a Subway sandwich at a federal officer. The footage obtained by our Fox 5 D.C. station shows the incident earlier this week during a confrontation in downtown Washington, D.C. Court documents allege the man is now former DOJ employee Dunn, and that he yelled profanities at a U.S. Customs and Border Protection agent before hurling that sandwich right at him and then, as you can see, taking off running. Attorney General Pam Bondi posted about this earlier on today here on social media, and I do want to pop that up for you. She said, "If you touch any law enforcement officer, we will come after you. I just learned that this defendant worked at the Department of Justice no longer. Not only is he fired, he has been charged with a felony. This is an example of the deep state we have been up against for 7 months as we work to refocus DOJ. You will not work in this administration while disrespecting our government and law enforcement." I do want to discuss all of this further as we get more and more details on the developing story. Nima Rahmani, a friend of the show, is the president of West Coast Trial Lawyers, and he's a former federal prosecutor. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us today.
Of course, Josh. Thanks for having me as always.
Of course. And first off, I did want to ask you overall about this situation in general, because we are talking about felony assault. How exactly does that differ from maybe simple assault? And does a sandwich meet the criteria of any of that?
Josh, you're spot on. This is not felony assault. Felony requires some sort of weapon, usually a deadly weapon, or substantial bodily injury. And throwing a Subway sandwich at someone may be assault, but it's simple assault. It's a misdemeanor under 111 United States Code. Again, it's something that's a wobbler for folks who practice criminal law, which means it can be charged as a misdemeanor or a felony. So I understand what Pam Bondi's doing. She's trying to protect federal law enforcement officers, but no judge in this country on either side of the political aisle, regardless of who appointed them, is going to move forward with a felony assault trial here. This will be a misdemeanor, and it will be for a magistrate, which is a lower judge in federal court.
Legal experts immediately called out Bondi's overreach. But then the grand jury delivered a devastating blow to Trump's DOJ.
Welcome back to Justice. Just the other day, the president talked or was hoping about the possibility.
The New York Times revealed the shocking truth. Prosecutors failed to secure indictment against man who threw sandwich at a federal agent. It was a sharp rebuke to the prosecutors who were dealing with the fallout from President Trump's move to send National Guard troops and federal agents into Washington. Federal prosecutors on Tuesday were unable to secure a felony assault indictment against a man who threw a sandwich at a federal agent on the streets of Washington this month, according to two people familiar with the matter. The remarkable failure by the U.S. Attorney's Office in Washington was the second time in recent days that it was unable to persuade grand jurors to bring an indictment in a felony assault case against a federal agent, and it amounted to a sharp rebuke by ordinary citizens against the team of prosecutors who were dealing with the fallout from President Trump's movement to send National Guard troops and federal agents into the city on patrol. It remained unclear if prosecutors planned to try again to obtain an indictment against the man, Sean C. Dunn, a former Justice Department paralegal. Mr. Dunn was initially charged on August 13 in a criminal complaint accusing him of throwing a submarine sandwich at a Customs and Border Patrol officer who was on patrol with other federal agents near the corner of 14th and U Streets in the northwest section of the Capitol, a popular part of the city filled with bars and restaurants. Now, before he threw the sandwich, the complaint asserts, Mr. Dunn stood within inches of the officer, calling him and his colleagues fascists and shouting, "I don't want you in my city." Mr. Dunn's lawyer, Sabrina Schroff, declined to comment. It is extremely unusual for prosecutors to come out of a grand jury without obtaining an indictment because they are in control of the information that the grand jurors hear about a case, and defendants are not allowed to have their lawyers in the room as evidence is presented. But Mr. Trump's decision to flood the streets of Washington with federal agents and military personnel who are generally not trained in conducting routine police stops has resulted in a flurry of defendants being charged with federal crimes that would typically be handled at the local court level if they were filed at all. It has also led to an increasing number of embarrassments for federal prosecutors who have had to dismiss weak cases or reduce the charges that defendants were facing in recent days.
Social media exploded with mockery. The Trump administration has appointed a U.S. attorney, a Fox News host, quite literally struggling to prosecute a ham sandwich. Working on a Hollywood reboot? Working title, Hoagie's Heroes. Do we have to take a shot every time Jeanine Pirro failed to get an indictment? Suggested Blue Sky user, partially convinced. You know, like a drinking game? My liver is not prepared for this. This embarrassing failure reveals how Trump's militarization of domestic policing is backfiring spectacularly. When grand juries, ordinary citizens, refuse to criminalize sandwich throwing, they're sending a clear message. Federal overreach has gone too far. Pam Bondi's DOJ is wasting taxpayer resources prosecuting food fights while real crimes demand attention. This is what happens when political theater replaces actual justice. The grand jury's revolt shows Americans won't be intimidated by authoritarian prosecutorial tactics. Democracy still works when citizens refuse to be bullied. What's your take on this prosecutorial disaster? Should throwing a sandwich be a felony? Drop your thoughts below. Smash that subscribe button and hit the notification bell because these DOJ failures are just getting started and the American people are fighting back.